I'm so excited to have John Berry join me for another Beacons of Light show. Welcome back, John.
Thank you. Glad to be back.
We didn't get canceled between the two shows.
I know.
I'm so glad.
Yeah.
Bishop Duca, thank you. Our local bishop is so supportive. And, you know, I can't say enough about Steve and Jeff that produce this show. They're phenomenal. They really help us to get our Vincentian mission out to the community here in the Diocese of Baton Rouge. It's great to have you here as the new national president. You've been it for about, 4 or 5 months now?
Yeah, 6 months, I think.
Yeah, and so what is the vision for the next 6 years?
Well, I think our mission for the next 6 years, our vision for the next 6 years is renewal, revitalization, and journeying together to determine how we adapt to a changing world. The rule in part 1, 1.6, calls us to adapt to a changing world as necessary. And I think if you look at what we've been through for the past 3 years with the pandemic, you couldn't define a changing world any more clearly than what we've just been through. Everything's changed. Everything's changed in terms of how we relate to each other, how we communicate with each other. And it's time for the society to begin to have a synodal conversation. And when I say synodal, I don't mean synodal in the sense of what the Pope's doing with the church, but it's the same process. Synodal meaning journeying together from the Greek. And talking to each other in a in-depth conversation about what is it we have to look at from a leadership perspective, from an impact perspective, from a membership perspective, on a global perspective, global being United States, but also how we relate to the rest of the world and the rest of the Vincentian family to ensure that we are delivering our mission, maintaining our ties to our faith, serving the people that we serve in the most impactful way, and bringing all those who need to hear our message and want to hear our message into the family and making them part of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul.
Well, I know you well, John, and I know your vision as a leader is to get everybody. You said in the first show about encountering. It's not only encountering those we're blessed to serve in our Vincentian mission, but it's also encountering our fellow Vincentians.
Correct.
And from that, I know you want to build, it's not what John Berry wants. It was want the Holy Spirit to speak through everybody, right?
Right, exactly. And that is how this process moves forward, is we start with a spiritually infused conversation at the front line. We start at the conferences. Mm-hmm. With every conference and every organization, at the mid-year meetings, at the regional meetings, at the conference meetings, for a year. I mean, this is not a one-off, quick, let's boom, have a conversation and we're done. This is a year's worth of spiritually infused. Archbishop Belisario, who is our National Episcopal Advisor, will, at the mid-year meeting, speak to us and then tape a spiritual reflection that we'll show at every regional meeting and we'll make available to show at every conference. We'll tape this spiritual reflection that people can watch and then use to reflect upon, to have this conversation. And the conversation is really just an unjudgmental, no conclusion, open. I hate the word brainstorm because it's not a brainstorm, because a brainstorm says, let's talk about a bunch of stuff and then, put dots on everything and
Right.
pick out the one that
Right.
everybody likes the most.
Right.
That's not what this is, because every voice matters.
Yes.
And maybe the one comment made by one person,
Mm-hmm.
the lone voice in the wilderness, right?
Mm-hmm.
The voice crying out in the wilderness, that may be the most important comment that's made. So we capture every comment.
Yes.
We talk about these, and we open our hearts, we open our voices through the Holy Spirit to talk about,
Mm-hmm.
what do we need to do? What is this all about? How do we bring new members in? We talk about engaging youth.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about engaging the non-engaged, whether it be minorities or underserved populations or any other number of folks. Well, we can talk about that all day long.
Mm-hmm.
But if the infrastructure
Mm-hmm.
or the organizational structure
Mm-hmm.
is by design
Mm-hmm.
built to create barriers to those people being part of our society,
Mm-hmm.
then we can talk till we're blue in the face, but we're never going to get them involved.
Right.
So what do we do about that? I don't come with answers. I mean, I don't have a prescriptive list of here's all the things we need to fix. But you know who does have that list of all the things we need to fix? He does.
That's right.
So as we talk about it and the Holy Spirit infuses us, we'll figure it out.
Well, I think that's a great strategy. When you talk about strategy, and whether it's St. John the Baptist out in the wilderness that's hollering about something that's coming, or that Vincentian that is there and has that brilliant statement that you can't lose anything because it's all priceless. Right. And I think in our Vincentian ministry, I think you agree, God's talking to us all the time.
Right.
But it's sometimes I find I'm not listening.
Yeah.
And I think what you're saying is our entire Vincentian family needs to listen.
Yeah.
And not miss anything.
Exactly. And what I desperately have to avoid, and this is on me, and I have to be really careful about it, because any of us that have been in business or been involved in corporate or in any kind of a structured organization, we've all been through the situation where the boss goes off to a training session, or the new boss comes in, and they come back and they've got this brilliant idea. And we sit back and we go, okay, the boss just went to training. She's got this great idea she learned. Let's just wait a couple of weeks and she'll forget about it. And we go about our business, right? So being the new president, and over the years, there have been a number of things we've done in the society. What I need to avoid is people perceiving this as, here's the new president, he's got this new program, and if we just shake our heads and smile, John will forget about it in a couple of months, and then we can just go back to doing what we've always done. Well, what I have to make sure I'm communicating is this isn't a program. This isn't a structured thing. I'm not asking people to do that. This is a conversation. Mm-hmm. This is talking to each other for a year. I want to hear as much from the conference in South Dakota as I want to hear from the conferences in Los Angeles, because their voice is as important as their voice. But what tends to happen is the largest, and no offense to Los Angeles, their voice, the loudest, richest, biggest, tends to overshadow the smallest, quietest, simplest. So we have to do whatever we can to make sure that doesn't happen. And And it's not going to be easy. Now, I will also say that this isn't all coming from just my brain. The National Council of Australia has done this. They've gone through this process. They called it Journeying Together. We're calling it Vision SVDP. And their National Council president, who has become a very good friend of mine, will keynote at our mid-year meeting, Mark Catani. And he's going to talk about the process they went through. Now, Australia, their structure is a little bit different from ours, and they've got some national things going on that are different than the United States. They have some issues with indigenous populations that they're integrating, so they're not quite the same as what we are, but they've done a lot of this listening. So Mark has been incredibly generous in allowing us to take much of their learning and use it. So we've been able to really leap forward in terms of doing it, because there's so many similarities. I went and spent a week with them listening to what they've been through, and it's, if you closed your eyes down there, other than the accent, you would think you were in the United States.
Well, that's a great point to end this segment, because what you just said is every Vincentian voice counts. We want to hear every voice. And not only that, we have a global society, a global Vincentian family that we can look at, a group that's done this successfully, and something that we can kind of model ours on. When we come back, we'll continue this discussion about how the society is going to grow to meet the needs of everyone in need and help each one of us to grow spiritually. For over 20 years, the St. Vincent de Paul Community Pharmacy has served our area. We provide prescription medicines for those who have nowhere to turn for this most basic healthcare need. Please, if you need your medicine or you know a family member that needs their medicine, contact us. Kay, how can they get in touch?
383-7450.
Give us a call today and spread the word so that we can ensure no one goes without their prescription medication. We're back. We're talking with John Berry about the wonderful Society of St. Vincent de Paul, its mission, and the things we're going to be doing in regard to visioning over the course of the next year.
Yeah. So we talked about, what we're going to be doing, looking at the internal side of it and how we're going to adjust the society and move forward through questioning and our synodal process. But while we're doing that, we also are going to be looking at how do we make sure that we are communicating our purpose and our mission and our impact externally as we continue to grow the society. Last week we talked about my journey with the society, and I always tell a funny story about Archbishop Gregory, who's now Cardinal Gregory in Washington, when I first started with the society in Atlanta. And I remember he said to me one day, he said, "John, do you know what most people think about the Society of St. Vincent de Paul?" And I said, "No, sir, I don't." And he said, "Most people think it's two people sitting in the basement of the church handing out food bags." And he said, "You know that's not what the society is, and I know that's not what it is. So now your job is to make sure the rest of Georgia knows that that's not what it is." And I always took that to heart, because that is an important role that we have within the society, which is to take our light out from under the bushel basket and shine it so that we can show people the impact we have. The Society of the St. Vincent de Paul is the largest homelessness prevention organization in the United States. Our data that we've gathered, and in all honesty, we haven't gathered all of it because our infrastructure hasn't yet been able to put the processes in place to get it. But the data we've gathered to date shows we have had a $1.4 billion with a B dollar impact on homelessness prevention in the United States. Nobody else comes near that. So what we need to do as a society is grow that number, communicate that number, let people know about that number. We need to do it through developing a very robust and strong fundraising network through corporations, foundations, people of affluence and influence, getting out there, telling our story through communication media, through social media, the changing world of social media, sending out mailers while they work. That's not where we engage the young people that are the future of the country. The people that we need to engage are on the things that I don't fully understand, TikTok and Instagram and Facebook and some of these others. We need to have structures in place to do that. So while we're having our synodal conversations and moving forward in how we structure the society and how we grow the society, we also need to move forward in externally communicating, building, and growing our development channels, our social media channels, and not only to raise money and raise awareness, but to attract more people into the society, grow our number of ascensions, and build a society's base.
Well, and that's a beautiful vision because you're right. Us coming together as a Vincentian family is so very critical, but the work doesn't stop. I think you're right that a lot of people think about food and food pantries, and we do that all over the United States and throughout the world. But we're so much more than just food.
Right.
We're not, and homeless prevention is a big deal. And you, as a Vincentian, not only as a conference Vincentian, but as a conference president, you've been part of those home visits where you go into a home, they're about to be evicted.
Right. Having been a Vincentian who's done home visits, having been a conference president, it always enrages me. It's the only term I can use for it. It enrages me when I hear people, especially politicians, who say, people who are trying to get something. They just want to get more than they deserve. And I think back on visits I've been where people have called and said, well, I need help with my electric bill. I can't afford it. And you've gone to their home and you see the children running around in rags, and you see that they're eating on the floor because they don't have furniture. And you see the poverty that they live in, but all they've asked for is their electric bill to be paid. They haven't asked for any more. And we come in and we can help them with these other things. Or, people who have said, I just need my mortgage paid so I don't end up in the street. And you go there and you see that they don't have food and they don't have clothes. People aren't trying to game the system. Are there some? Yeah, there's some. But I'd rather have one person game the system and help 20 than, stop that one and have 20 suffer.
Well, since 1833 in Paris, France, we're one of the few agencies, organizations, groups that make home visits. Yeah. And so that's where it's very difficult to game the system. Right. And, our Vincentians, I tell you, stewardship is a word that I think throughout our Vincentian family is in action, because our Vincentians are good stewards of the support that they receive, and they're able to help those like you just illustrated so well. Families that are just needing that helping hand up. And when we come back, we're going to talk to John about the importance of keeping hope alive in every community throughout the United States, and why the Society of St. Vincent de Paul provides those homeless prevention services, responses to actual homelessness, responses to any need, because in our society there's no form of charity that's foreign to our society. When we come back, we'll end our second show with our National Vice President. The Society of St. Vincent de Paul's first cookbook, Taste and See, is the gift which helps share the goodness of the Lord with those most in need. Featuring recipes from Chef John Foles, each chapter begins with a short story about one of our special work programs. To order your copy of Taste and See, please call the Society or visit our website. Help multiply blessings for the neediest in our community. Welcome back to this last segment with John Berry, or as I could call him, the man with the purple tie, because he wore that because of LSU. He said he thought this out off camera. You thought I forgot about that, huh, John?
No, I wore it in honor of LSU for you, although I am a Georgia Bulldogs fan.
That's right.
I did it for you, Michael.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I remember you came down in 2022, and you're a big Atlanta Braves fan.
Absolutely.
And you had an Atlanta Brave A on your shirt, and a lot of our LSU membership said, "What are you doing coming with an Alabama shirt
on?" And the server at the restaurant almost wouldn't take my dinner order because she thought I had an Alabama shirt on.
Yeah, we had to clarify. That's Atlanta Brave.
I would have gone shirtless before I wore an Alabama shirt. So.
Yeah, that's one thing LSU fans in Georgia can agree on. Alabama is a tough team to play.
This is true.
But there's hope.
They knocked us out of the opportunity for a third national championship.
In a row. I know, that's rough. That's rough. And so how does that tie in with the Vincentian family? It doesn't.
We don't know.
But you know, that's one thing that is true about the society. It's all about fun.
Yes.
You know, and the last segment I came out and I couldn't say president. I said, let it go, because we are who you see. John Berry is who you see. You know, you want to embrace our entire society, and you want to do it in such a way that makes us the best we can be as Vincentians, right, John?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what it's all about. I mean, being a Vincentian is, nobody becomes a Vincentian and doesn't go all in. And I think that's one of the things that's fascinating about the society. So I'll tell you a personal story. So my wife has always been one of those who has said to me, you know, the society is your thing over all these years. She has her own thing. She's involved in a homeless ministry at our church. She does some other things. She never has come to a national meeting or a mid-year meeting. When I was installed as the national president in St. Louis last year, she obviously came to the national meeting and went to the sessions and went to a number of workshops. And she just has been fired up and goes now to conference meetings and is like, she is a full-blown Vincentian. The Holy Spirit came in and just got her from both sides, and now she's all in. And it's like every other Vincentian. Once you're in, you are in. And it is our responsibility as leaders to make that experience as beautiful, as spiritual, and as impactful as we can for those Vincentians. So in addition to all the other things we talked about, one of my goals and one of my responsibilities as the national president, working with our national staff, is how do we take the necessary administrative burdens on leadership that we have to do? Because in the modern world, we have to do some of these things, the paperwork, the legal stuff, the governance things. And how do we make them as burdensome, as least burdensome as possible? So we need to invest in technology, we need to invest in things like that, because we need to make the experience joyful, spiritual, and positive so that we can make the path to leadership one that people want to take.
And you know, whether it was our patron St. Vincent de Paul or Frederick Ozanam, our founder, I mean, people of great vision.
Right.
And what you're saying is to optimize our mission as a society, we got to use every tool at our disposal, right, John?
Yeah. You know, people don't realize Vincent was a prolific fundraiser. Vincent, in order to raise funds for the society in the 1600s, he bought a cab company. He bought a toll road and used the money from the toll road to fund the society. He did all kinds of crazy things. And it cracks me up when some of our conference people, you know, poo-poo the idea of fundraising. Well, we're Vincentians, we don't fundraise. Tell Vincent that. Vincent did some of the most phenomenal fundraising you could ever think of because he knew that you can't feed the hungry, you can't clothe the naked, you can't give drink to the thirsty if you don't have the funds in order to get those things and do them. So everything we do comes from our founders.
It is. And that's what's so great about being a part of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul, men and women, whether it's St. Louise de Marillac or Sister Rosalie Rendu, whoever, Frederick. It's you know, we've got about a minute and a half left, John.
Yeah.
What would your message be to our Vincentian family? What do you want to tell them about the coming next 6 years?
I think if we could summarize it, it's really simple. And I said it in my talk when I ran for president. I said it in my talk the night I was installed. It goes back to the beginning, the three essential elements: spirituality, service, and friendship. And over the last 2 weeks, the last two sessions, we've talked about all three things.
Right.
The spirituality that drives what we do, the service that is what we do, and the friendship. We've referred to the laughing together, the visiting together, the being friends together. That's as important as all. None of the three are more important than any of the other two. If we focus on those three things, if we give each of those three things important, and one of the things that Archbishop Belisario is so good about talking about is they all interrelate. Each one does not stand alone, they stand integrated. Keep those in mind, and we're all going to be good.
Great message. Thank you, John. I hope you've enjoyed this edition of Beacons of Light. We'll see you again next week.